We've been invited to Law's Whiskey House in Denver, Colorado. Looking forward to the tasting and tour. See you guys inside.
Welcome to our whiskey church, where we will talk all about spirit. Hey everyone, welcome to Laws. My name is Corey. We will be here in our whiskey church talking about all the spirits. Here at Laws, we are trying to reimagine American whiskey by using the great terroirs of Colorado. So the soil, the atmosphere, the lack of humidity, everything this great centennial state has to offer, so that we can produce a bold and unique grain to glass delicious whiskey. Al and Mary Ann Laws met and grew up in Canada, where Al found his love of whiskey at a young legal age of Canada. He knew that this was his passion. So he came to the US, started in New York, where his company at the time actually moved them out to Colorado to do another branch of the company, where him and Mary Ann fell in love with Colorado. So that thought for a little while maybe they'd start the distillery in upstate New York, but once they came out here, they're like, this is where it's gotta be. So in 2009, they went out to Kentucky and did the Bourbon Trail, get some inspiration, get some ideas. This is where Al met a gentleman named Bill Friel. Bill is the master distiller of Barton's whiskey. He's also one of the remaining Kentucky Hall of Fame bourbon creators. And then before his retirement, he was the master distiller of, if you ever heard of 1792, that bourbon was his. And so what was supposed to be a half an hour conversation turned into 2 hours of them just talking about whiskey, and Al talking about his vision and what he wanted to do, and actually talked Bill out of retirement to come to Colorado and consult to create the laws that we have today. Al actually called him his Yoda, so he taught everything that he needed to know. And July 4th, 2011 is when him and Bill actually barreled their very first barrel. So at this point, Bill's like, all right, young Jedi, I've taught you all that you need to know. Go on, make whiskey. I'm going to go back to Kentucky, get back into retirement. He didn't want to outsource anything to get the process started. He didn't want to start off with creating like a vodka or a gin like a lot of distilleries do, just to get something out the door. So it was just him and Mary Ann kept their day jobs so that they could continue to distill at night. About 2 years in, Al went to go taste the barrel, and one thing he really believes is that whiskey tells you when it's ready and not the other way around. At 2 years in, it was not ready. So he plugged it back up, set it aside, kept working during the day, distilling at night, barreling everything up. And then October 2014 is when we opened to the public and started selling all of our beautiful 4-grain bourbon. Another kind of cool thing that just happened last year is we actually won World's Best Small Batch Bourbon for our cask strength 4-grain bourbon. So coming from Canada to all the way to the US to Colorado to World's Best and all that. So when you think about whiskey, I like to think of it as a trunk of a tree. Whiskey is going to be the trunk. There's all these different branches. You have Japanese whiskey, you have Canadian whiskey, Irish whiskey, American whiskey. And then we have all our own branches as well. You can do like a single malt, a rye, or a bourbon. And we're going to focus on bourbon today. To be a bourbon and to be able to put it on the label, we say that we call it the ABCs of bourbon. So the rules to be a bourbon. Does anybody want to guess what the A stand? So a lot of people think that it needs to be made in Kentucky, but it's made in America. What about the B?
So there's no Japanese bourbon?
There's no Japanese bourbon. Yeah, it's just has to be made in America. What about the barrel? Or the B? It has to go into new American oak barrels. So nothing in them before, but it doesn't really, at this point, it doesn't have to stay in it. It can go right through it. But does anybody want to guess what the C stands for? It's actually just corn. It just has to be made with 51% corn to be a bourbon. Yeah. This is where Bill really helped out with the mash bill. So Al wanted to use all the great grains of Colorado, the mother grains, which is sometimes hard to do all 4. Rye is kind of what we call a bully grain. It really takes over flavor a lot of times. Like if you're making a sandwich, you put a piece of rye bread and a piece of wheat bread, you're gonna taste the rye. So Bill really helped out with the mash bill on that. And what they decided to go with, they do 60% corn, 20% wheat, and 10% barley and rye. To get straight on your label, it has to be aged for at least 2 years. We age ours for 4. That's just when whiskey told us it was. Also, you can always tell that we don't outsource at all because it says distilled, aged, and bottled here at Loss. Again, there are no shortcuts. Another thing Al is very particular about is that whiskey has a soul. And to have that soul, you need to show the soul of people that make it and the place that we get all of the grain. We get all of our grain here in Colorado. All of our corn come from the Whiskey Sisters down here with Al. The Whiskey Sisters actually just won a very prestigious award for women in whiskey. It has been owned through their multiple generations, about 100 years under their family. So yeah, they're great people. And then all of our rye, barley, and wheat, we have a heirloom variety of all these. That way we can do quality over quantity. That comes from the Cody brothers and the Colorado Malting Company. So they do all of the malting for us as well. They are down in the St. Louis Valley, just right outside of Alamosa. Great place to grow rye and all those things with all the different temperature changes all the time and everything. That's great down there. So they also do all the malting of our grains for us. That's just when you're actually taking grains, kind of soaking it in water, making it think it's going to sprout, making it just easier for the distilling process to break down those enzymes and turn them into simple sugars and then into alcohol. So right behind us is our grain garden. So this is where we keep all our rye, barley, and wheat. And the really tall silos behind that is going to be all the corn. We have about maybe 20,000 grains at a time, pounds of grain. And then right behind that is that little beige machine over there. That is our hammer mill. So we'll take about 1,100 pounds of grain through the hammer mill. And what this does is it's breaking down those grains, turning into what we call grist, which is very similar to like cornmeal or flour. Again, just making those grains a little bit easier to break down to make into simple sugars. But it's going to stay in the cooker while it's breaking down those grains, making simple sugars, so the yeast can then do its job. So it's going to stay in the cooker for about 4 hours. Afterwards, we'll bring it over into our open air fermenter. Now they decided to go with an open air because Al really wanted to still use the great terroirs of Colorado. So we're getting that wild yeast that's in the air, using that bacteria and everything to break down those simple sugars to create 3 different things: heat, CO2, and ethanol. So once it stays in these fermenter tanks for about 4 days while the yeast is doing its thing, partying with all the grains. At this point, at the end of the day, when the yeast has done everything, it's only at about 7 to 9% alcohol. So it's called what we call like a distiller's brew at this point. So then we're going to take that mash, bring it over here into our stripping stove. We're going to put hot steam up through the bottom. This is going to help separate the mash from the actual alcohol. Alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature, so it's going to be the first thing that comes off. It's going to hit these columns, go through those, through a condenser, and then we'll bring it over into our spirit still. Again, I'll go into more kind of detail when we get in there. But at this point, we have what we call low wines. So right now it's like 60 proof. So that's what when we do our cuts in our spirit still. So one thing that Bill really helped out with as well is knowing when to do the cuts. So we like to call them the heads, the hearts, and the tails. And the only thing that we really want to keep is the hearts. First thing that's going to come off first at a lower temperature is the heads. At this point, it's pretty much like methanol. It can make you go blind, it can kill you. We don't want to do that. During COVID, we actually did use it to make like sanitizer and things when everyone was going really low on sanitizer. But another thing that Bill really helped out with is that, yes, it's great to use like a sight glass, technology, things like that, science to do cuts, but really the most important thing is using your senses. So throughout the whole process, we've got our distillers over there tasting, feeling, smelling, everything to make the right amount of cuts. So the first thing coming off, that methanol is going to smell a lot like a nail polish remover, rubbing alcohol, really burn your nostrils. But then once they start to kind of smell more of something a little sweeter, kind of green apple, grassy, taste sweeter, that's going to be when we hit the hearts. So right now, all the heads is in about a 5-gallon bucket, and we're just going to toss that. So we're collecting all our hearts into a holding tank that we call White Dogs at this point. So it's pretty much moonshine. We call White Lightning, lots of different names of it. And so then once we start collecting those, we're holding them in the cell, and it starts to kind of turn as it's coming off the sight glass a little bit more cloudy, feeling a little greasier, but it's a little thicker. We're going to hold on to some of that just to change the thickness of the whiskey. But other than that, we've hit the tails. We want to start collecting them into a bucket and get rid of them as well. We end up with about 250 gallons of White Dog at this point. It's 125 proof, so it's a little hot. We're going to cut it down with Eldorado spring water to about 110. And then again, whiskey takes time. Whiskey tells you when it's ready. So now we're just playing a waiting game. So again, around 4 years that it stays in these barrels, getting all those flavors from the barrel, the chocolate, the vanilla, some of the smoke from the char, all those wonderful flavors. And then once it tells us when it's ready, we bring it over here to our bottling tank. So this is when one of our master blender, who a genius, I don't know how he does it, but he's going to take these barrels and start blending them together to get the specific taste of our 4 grain. Because even if it's all one batch, the actual barrels will give it a different taste no matter what, even if all the barrels are from the same tree. Once they get their preferred taste, cutting that down again for 90 proof, and then we bottle and label here in love, and then you enjoy it. Yay! Al went with the char number 3. That was just his favorite, and really only chars for about 45 seconds. And we use Independent Stave Company, which is in Missouri. They make most of barrels for a lot of the U.S. It's really cool. They do that for us. They put it all together for us. And every time they cut down a tree, they actually plant another one.
And then do the barrels only get used once?
Some we reuse some of them, or they'll go to like breweries or wineries. Tanua, the Colorado Irish whiskey that's in town, actually took some of our barrels. They're gonna age some of their whiskey in those. So yeah, that's what we call the distiller's breakfast smell. So we're gonna go over here to the cooker. On the other side of this wall is the hammer that we were talking about. As it's breaking all those enzymes down, it's coming through these pipes. Use a disc and chain system. Keep everything moving so it doesn't get caught up. It can hold about a pound of grain in each one of these little discs. So that's kind of neat. So to make bourbon, the first thing that's going to come through the hammer is going to be our corn and our rye. Corn has got to be a little higher temperature to break down those enzymes, and we do the rye kind of at the same time so that we're cleaning some of those bully flavors. So it's going to start off at about 200 degrees, and then it's going to sit at that for a little while it's cooking. Then we're going to bring down the temperature and add the barley and the wheat. Again, as you can see up top, there's an agitator thing that's literally just mixing everything up as it goes. Nothing's staying at the bottom, getting trapped and burning, but keeping everything together, cooking all at the same time to make sure that we're getting that consistency that we like. Once the cook thing has done its thing, so about 4, almost 5 hours usually in the cook process, and we get those simple sugars from all of that. We're going to put everything through this heat condenser, bring down the temperature again. Yeast really likes to stay at about 85 degrees. If it's too low, it kind of becomes dormant, doesn't do its job very well. And if it's too high, start to get some funky flavors, just because it's getting all mad because it's too hot. So over here is one of our open air fermenters. This one is not in production right now. We've got a couple over yonder. One thing that Bill also really helped out with is that you can see that this isn't set up in a linear fashion. It makes it easier for one distiller to be here by themselves and to distill a whole batch. So that's really cool. This whole thing over here was actually at the very first distillery. As you can see, one person can totally stand in there and do everything. We still use it to this day to do experimental things like our agave spirit. We have an Amaro, Curacao, lots of really fun stuff, yeah. We also make a rum. So when Al came to Marianne, his wife, and said, I want to make a distillery, she said, okay, but you have to make me a rum. So 7 years later, she got her rum, and they named it Marianne's Promise. Thank you. I know. So I'll show you the actual fermenter that's working right now. Once the yeast has turned those simple sugars into CO2, alcohol, and heat, it takes about 4 days, and that's when we're going to take that mash and bring it over into our strip. So again, at this time, the ABV is about 7 to 9%, so it's considered a kind of the distiller's brew. So that's when we're putting in hot steam from the bottom, so that we're making that separation happen between the alcohol that's evaporating off and the mash. We will.
How about that sour mash?
I'm so glad you asked. So what we do, really similar to making sourdough bread, we reuse some of that mash. It's going to keep the pH the right acidity that we like for the whiskey, but we're going to put it back into the cooker and start the whole process over again. Trying to reuse everything that we can, really. But everything else, we take these grains, give them to local ranchers, and they feed their cattle. The water goes to a water treatment plant, cleans it up, it also gets reused. It's kind of changes it a little bit, but it still gets the consistency that we like because we do it every day. So even if we're just making rye, we'll do that to the next batch of rye. We're just keeping the process going, getting all those flavors, keeping the pH balanced, things like that. Letting the yeast do its thing. So once the ethanol is evaporating off, it's going to hit those columns and it's going to stay in copper for the rest of the distilling process. This copper is pulling out like sulfur, bacteria that was in the wild yeast air. We're trying to get the cleanest product possible. So all the vapor is going to go through this condenser into one of our holding cells and wait till it's done doing all of it. At this point, we have about 500 gallons in our holding tanks that we're then going to put into our second still, which is our spirit still. So come on over. If you can see on the very top of there, there's that glass that we call our sight glass. This is what they use to do some of the cuts. But this is the still that Al had from the very beginning. This made the first barrel. So yes, this is the sight glass that they use to do some of the cuts where they're feeling it coming off. We're collecting it into this 5-gallon bucket until we hit the hearts, pull it up, start collecting it into this holding. And then we'll stop collecting it once we hit the tails. Once we have all of our delicious moonshine white dogs into our holding tank, that's when we'll add the El Dorado spring water. We do use technology. So there's about 250 gallons in here at that point, 125 proof. So we're gonna cut that down with El Dorado spring water to about 110. Another really cool thing that Bill helped out with is this guy that we stole from Conoco. But this actually works just like a gas pump. So if there's only one distiller in here at a time, you can start it up, go do other things, and it will stop before it overflows. That's also, again, not losing any of our wonderful white dog. You can see all that heat coming off. You can see that that line on the end. So for like day 2 and 3, the yeast is really active all the time. We usually have something on the TV showing the day process, but technology, something happens. But we like to kind of say the day 1 is we've added the yeast. The wild yeast is getting in with all the mash and whatnot, doing its thing. So it's like you're getting ready to start have a party. So you're hanging out, you're having a good time. Day 2, you've had a couple drinks, you know, you're feeling great, bubbling around. Day 3, you're real bubbly. You've had a few drinks. It might be midnight. And day 4 is after you've partied all night and you just need to chill. So this is pretty much our barrel room. We have an entire other warehouse that has about 6,000 barrels in it, about a mile from here. These are the ones that we keep for special occasions that were just barreled. Some of our favorite ones, so like this is barrel number 5280, so we've got Lucifer there. This one's really cool. The barrel of the beast is what we like to call it. Al's a huge metalhead. So we barreled this on June 6, 2016. And then we also, if you've ever heard of True Brewery, they took one of our barrels, put their beer in it, and pretty much sold out of all of it in like a day. Wow. So that's kind of cool. So we're waiting for hopefully this June 6th, we can barrel everything up if they're done making their beer. And then sell that out after aging it for a little while. So like I said, Al decided on a char number 3. It's just kind of what the flavor that he wanted. Sometimes 4 just gets a little flaky and whatnot. But yeah, the Independent Stave Company is going to char it for 45 seconds to get the desired flavors. They just literally torch it for 45 seconds. Yeah. Does anybody know what this right here is called? This line? So we call this the devil's cut. This is literally how much of the whiskey we lose to being in the barrel. So the line is all whiskey. There's another thing that happens during the barrel process is what is called the angel shares. So in Kentucky, because of the humidity of Kentucky, the first thing that evaporates off is whiskey. Here in Colorado, with the lack of humidity, the first thing that evaporates off is actually water. That means when we actually go to open up these barrels, when they tell us when it's ready, it comes out at a higher proof than what we actually put in. And Colorado loves their whiskey. A couple of these other ones that are really neat, if you see anything with like an X on it, these are experimental barrels. And yeah, just this is the oldest one that we have, still just in right here. So this one, it's a mega death record. If you ever do a private tour, we do let you sieve a barrel. So you're actually, we do open one up for it and you get to taste that. Yeah. So if you ever want to come back and do that. How about we drink some whiskey? Yeah. So this is where we're gonna taste some whiskey. We're gonna start off with a guided whiskey tasting. We're gonna start off with our 4-grain bourbon on the left. And we're gonna do this little tasting in about three different little sips. So just kind of try to taste them. So the first sip that we're gonna do is what we call the acclimation sip. So this is giving your brain time to kind of try to figure out what's happening. So take a little sip, swish it around, do what we call the Kentucky chew. Getting that like salivation, kind of hot feeling. This is literally your brain being like, what did you put in your mouth? Yeah, definitely some vanilla, cinnamon in there, coming through that on that box barrel. Anything else? Maple, yeah, absolutely. Definitely some maple in there. Tastes like whiskey. Awesome. Are we getting any different smells after that acclimation sip? Yeah. Maybe a little bit of that oak coming out? A little bit more? Yeah? Again, there's no wrong answers. Everybody's brain's a little different. All right, so the second sip is what we call a judgment sip. So after your brain has had time to kind of understand what is happening, this is when you decide if you like whiskey or not. So take another little sip. Definitely a little easier. You get the whiskey's coming out a lot more. Smoke, yeah, that char is coming through. Maybe a little bit of citrus, green apple smell that you taste when you smell during whiskey. All right, so then for the fourth little sip, we're gonna take these little droppers. This is just El Dorado spring water. So what we're doing here is literally a chemical process. You can see it mushing with the water with the whiskey as it's actually what happens here is it's actually heating up the whiskey, which is kind of really neat. Yeah, but you can see like definitely like a science. There's no wrong way to drink whiskey is what we say. But as it depends on the temperature of the water, how different it's gonna taste, how it's gonna feel. So as you put like an ice cube in, it's literally, the whiskey is sticking to it. So as it melts, you'll kind of see that chemical process happen, which is kind of cool. But it's just opening up the whiskey. This one is 4 years old. Smell any different tastes coming through?
It's so mild now.
Kind of opened up. Yeah. It's not as sharp. No wrong way to drink whiskey. If someone wants to buy a $200 bottle of whiskey and make a whiskey Coke, you do you. Well, great. So that's just kind of how Al likes to present tasting our whiskey. But the next one that we have, it's kind of cool to put these next to each other. So this is the 4-year aged one, and then we also have our bonded. Back in 1897, when people were making whiskey, they were putting things like gasoline and spitting tobacco, just things in it to change the color so they could sell it quicker. This was killing people. So our good friend Colonel E.H. Taylor came in and was like, we need to do something about that. First of all, it's not good for business. Second of all, we don't want to kill people. So they came up with the Bonded Act. This happened about 40 years before the federal government was regulating food. So they definitely had wanted to take care of whiskey first. Priorities, yeah, exactly. So they came up with the Bonded Act. There are 4 rules to become a bonded whiskey. First of all, it has to be made all in one distillery by one distiller, and it has to be housed in a federally bonded warehouse. So back in the day, people would sit there for 365 days a year, making sure that they're following all these rules. But the second rule, it has to be aged for at least 4 years. We age ours for 7. Yeah, that's just kind of when the whiskey told us it was aged. The third, it has to be exactly 100 proof. Not a 0.00% more or less. Exactly 100%. 100 proof.
Well, it's in the barrel. Just once you open it.
Well, no. It's once we bottle it, it has to come out at exactly 100%. So we proof it down again with Eldorado Spring Water. And then the last and final rule to be bonded is all the grain needs to be harvested in the same year of the same season. That's kind of a tough one, but it really does help with the taste. So it depends on whatever season and the growing cycle and whatever was happening in Colorado. Weather-wise, I mean, we can go through 4 seasons in one day. So this just helps make a consistent each bottle, but of course each of our different batches of the bonded is going to taste different because of the seasons.
Is it the same mash bill as the 4 grains?
Yeah, it's the same match bill, same everything. It's just literally everything was harvested in the same season. Is anybody finding if they like the 4-year to the bonded? What kind of flavors are we getting off the bonded?
Yeah.
A little sharper? Okay, yeah.
More vanilla.
Oh, definitely. You get more of that barrel. Been in there a little bit longer, absolutely. Maybe some cherries, some medical cherries, yeah. So Ralphie's is our 4-grain bourbon. We say this is for the kids. We are CU Athletics preferred whiskey. So we made this one for the students. They bring in tailgate on. Oh, very nice. So it's a little lower proof and a little less expensive. So it's only 90 proof. But we do, some of the proceeds go to taking care of Ralphie. Ralphie is the CU bison. That is their mascot. I'm pretty sure all of them have been female because they don't get as big. Yeah. But then we also did make, we're actually out of the bottles here in the house, but we made a black and gold where the athletics director of CU came in, and James, our master blender, and Al sat with him with about like 100 different barrels. He tried them all throughout a couple days, picked his 5 favorites, and we blended those for him, and we made our black and gold. It's a little higher proof. We say it's for the parents, and it's a little bit more expensive. My favorite is we actually have a bonded rye. Fantastic. That's a lot of us that work here. At the end of the night, we will drink that. I know. Well, you can always go up to our cocktail around and get any of the the tastings that we want. But yeah, so we've got that's the cast strength right there. You can definitely try anything. So the last one is going to be our rye from the St. Louis Valley. This, to be a rye, I have to do 51% rye, just like bourbon. We do 100% rye. It's different than a lot of other ryes that you tasted. It's really cool. The Cody brothers actually took their strain, that's a heirloom variety that is kind of naturally grown down in the St. Louis Valley, and they did a DNA test of it. And it turns out this is the only strand of rye in the entire world with that DNA. We take about 95% of the rye that they grow. So really, our rye is the only rye that will taste this way in the entire world. No, a lot of people that don't like rye, I'm like, you have to try our rye. It's so smooth, it's delicious. It's not as like peppery as a lot of places. Yeah. I have had some people say that sometimes they can like kind of taste some like green chili taste, because down in Alamosa where they're growing a lot of green chilies, it could have soaked into the soil or something like that. But yeah, 116 right now for the rye, and then the bourbon was going to be about 106. So to be cask strength, it literally it comes from the barrel straight to a glass. So it doesn't get, it does not get proofed down again. So Amaro is literally means bitter in Italian. So if you know like Campari or things like that, it's kind of like a digestive. Yeah, absolutely. If you have time to go check out the cocktail lounge upstairs, we have a Black Manhattan. Yeah, with it's so good. Yeah, that's what I drink at the end of the night. So it's kind of very similar to a regular Manhattan. It has our rye, but we use the Amaro instead of sweet vermouth, and then a little bit of just Luxor cherry liqueur to get it a little sweeter than the bitter, which Amaro does. And then we do have some of our Origin series. These are really cool. It's literally vertical blends of a bunch of different bourbon barrels for the intentions, anywhere from 3.5 plus years to barrels that have been aged for 10 plus years that we blended, vertically blended together to make